episode 11 of the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast with Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler. I'm Brennan, and we are here the following Monday after Texas Tech defeats Cincinnati in the Jones 44-41. Gentlemen, somehow, some way, we still got to the point where we are now undefeated at home and 4-1 and actually feeling pretty good about our football team, which 4 weeks ago, I don't think a lot of people thought we'd be sitting here at this moment. So this is a great job by the team. Zyler and I were at the game last night. It was a ton of fun. How are we feeling, Clayton, Conrad? And then Zyler, I'll go to you after. We can go through our sights and sounds at the Jones. But Clayton, Conrad, how are we feeling after the win last night? And Conrad, then you can go into your Kool-Aid factory and the state of where the Kool-Aid factory is after Texas Tech is sitting at 4-1.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. It's always better to get on these after a win. And, I mean, you hit it on the head. I feel like after ACU and definitely Washington State, it looked like we were going to be lucky to make a bowl game. So it's hard to be 2/3 of the way there. Feeling pretty good.
We thought the sky was falling. We said it on this podcast. We closed down the factory. We reopened it back up. And as time has gone on, it has only gotten stronger. The orders have only increased, and the Bearcat blow pop did work. And so I'd like to show the world, our loyal listeners, what they should have gotten in the mail yesterday before the game. Conrad's Kool-Aid Bearcat blow pop with the Kool-Aid logo and a double T tattoo on his face if you can't see it, because that, my friends, is what the Kool-Aid of champions looks like. We are 4-1, 2-0 in the Big 12. We're sitting pretty. We talked about it last week. We're on our way to Arlington. So we need some more help at the Kool-Aid factory as well. And because of that, we've brought on a sales consultant. His name is Ryan Hawkins, for our listeners who know him. He is based in Lubbock, Texas. He is a certified killer when it comes to selling anything he puts his mind to. So he's going to be our rep in Lubbock. He's going to be getting our Kool-Aid out on the streets of University, Indiana, Quaker and Slide, Milwaukee. He'll be everywhere. So Lubbock locals, if you need Kool-Aid, Ryan Hawkins is your man, because this factory, I'm telling you, it is blowing up. So get your orders in. Bearcat blow pop worked. 4-1, 2-0, beat Cincinnati. So we're on the path to victory. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah, man, Ryan, I actually stayed at his house here in Lubbock for 2 nights, and I wake up Saturday morning and he goes into his fridge and he pulls out a 6-pack of Bearcat blow pop Kool-Aid that he bought. And so he was drinking some Kool-Aid on Sunday, hanging out. It was a ton of fun seeing him do that. And so he is a loyal listener of the show, and he's also our Kool-Aid hype man. So shout out to Ryan and anyone else who's loving and buying the Kool-Aid hype here at 4-1. Zyler, what do you think of the Jones last night, and any fun sights and sounds that you found?
Yeah, it was fun. It was great meeting up with you and your folks before the game. That was always a hoot. Seeing your mom, seeing Andrew, that was a ton of fun, and my parents were there. So that was neat. I thought the game itself and the Jones was really, really good. Night games at the Jones are always electric. I was happy that you were able to get a win. It's the first time since, I forget what we said last week, but it's been, close to a decade since you were able to get a win at a blackout at a conference game at night. So happy that we were able to pull that out. I thought the atmosphere was really good. Probably the best one that I've seen all year. Much better than ACU. That one had like a cloud of gloom over it, even though it was close and kind of rowdy. Yeah, it was fun. Brennan, what were your thoughts? I think that's your first time being there since the South End Zone opened.
First time at a game, yeah. I was in the stadium a little before the ACU game when they were still actually doing construction, like 2 or 3 days before the game, which looks really good. I thought the crowd was awesome, man. That the swag surfing at the end of the third quarter with the red and white lights going in and out, and I mean the whole stadium was doing, even the home side. It wasn't just the students, and I thought that got really loud. I was a little surprised there weren't a ton of Raider Power chants. I don't know. If they're trying to minimize that some, but I noticed that there weren't a lot of Raider Power going on across. I think they maybe did it once, so that was a little interesting. But I did see Ludwig Oberg, our fellow Red Raider golfer who's now crushing it on the world stage on the PGA Tour and for the Europeans. And so he walked right by me. He's a handsome young man who's really freakishly good at golf. And so that was fun to see him. I saw him in the south end zone actually. And so fun. I know we messaged him today. So if you can get this message to Ludwig, we want to have him on the pod. It's get Ludwig on the pod. So if anyone has connections to him listening, feel free to send them our way. But it was a ton of fun, man. I mean, it was nerve wracking. I think you could feel that intensity kind of pick up there when AJ McCarty had the interception. You kind of thought this was over. And then pretty quickly they score on a screen pass, and the anxiety picked up pretty quickly. But nonetheless, man, our boys found a way to get the win, and it was a lot of fun being back at nighttime to a sold out crowd too. I thought they were loud, and they stood up when they needed to on big third downs, and really proud of our team and proud of our fan base.
Okay, question for those of you that watched the game. I don't know why they overturned the targeting call. I don't know if it was because we were booing so loud. I had no idea why they did that on that last drive. Was there any explanation on the broadcast for that? I don't know
Conrad,
if Conrad or
I
Clayton.
was watching on mute, so Conrad, I don't know if you have a...
I think it was because they didn't really understand why, to be completely honest. These announcers weren't great, to be transparent with you guys about that and our listeners, because they didn't know a lot of things about what's going on in the game or your team. And so when it came to that, they weren't very informative. I think what I remember is that they were assuming that it was because he gave himself up so late that you couldn't really pull off. I'm not really sure if that's helpful, but that was kind of what they came down to, I guess. There was no real true explanation. Guess we'll have to tweet at the Big 12 refs and see if we can get something.
I was surprised that I'm not surprised that they didn't call it targeting or after the review, but I am surprised that they didn't have unnecessary roughness, because I definitely thought it warranted a 15-yard penalty for that, even if it wasn't targeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know we'll get into some of the game stuff later, but that was actually ended up being kind of a crucial moment for like time management stuff as the game went on. So sorry to hijack the thread, but that I did think that was interesting.
I have two questions for you guys. Number one, what happened with the horse? Zyler, you sent a text about the horse was going wild. What happened there?
Yeah, dude, I don't remember when that was or when I sent that text, but over in like the end zone, it had like run onto the end zone. It was like, it looked like it was going to throw the rider off. It was going nuts. It was during some sort of commercial break, and I was a little bit worried, but everything stabilized and the horse did well. It's so much better than it was like 2 years ago when they couldn't even let it run out. So good on them, and good on them getting that horse, settled down.
Second question, we posted a reel, a short, a TikTok that called the Jones at night a spiritual experience. Is it a spiritual experience? Was it that level, or what were your thoughts there?
I had a couple things. There's been several times I've been at the Jones and it's felt spiritual, but it's like the wrong kind of spiritual. Like I was in Dante's Inferno. Like I was like descending into the 6th and the 7th levels, watching us get crushed by some team. It is spiritual. Just kind of, you don't know what kind of a spiritual experience you're going to get. That's kind of my thought there.
Yeah, you're either like just levitating towards the heavens, or you're like just praying that the internal damnation like comes faster, almost, because it's just so suffering. So you don't know which one you're getting. But Saturday night, man, I definitely was. I was elevating, man. It was speaking to me for sure. Man, there's honestly not a place like it in terms of for us in Lubbock, because it's just us. Like that's what makes Texas Tech, I think, so unique. Austin and TCU and all these other places, they have massive fan bases in fairly large cities. I mean, you could say Stillwater's kind of similar, but Lubbock's out here, man, and I think everyone just gets so excited for the game. It's a family tradition. It's just like being at the Rawls tailgate and seeing all the families and the kids and everything. It's just awesome. And so when we're playing well and winning in the Jones, it's a blessing, and it's something we haven't experienced a lot in the last 15 years, but it's good to see Joey turn that around, and it's awesome. I can't wait to come to a couple more games. I'm excited.
King Joey is doing his work.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. It feels like those are games that you wouldn't have won under previous regimes. I think Cliff would have found a way to lose that game. I think Matt Wells would have found a way to, lose that game 42 to 10. But it just feels like Joey has been good at converting some of those kind of yucky games at the end into wins. I know, one score games tend to kind of be 50-50 as you go throughout, but a lot of really good coaches end up having positive records in those game scripts. So that's something that hopefully we continue to carry on. We're 3-0 in one score games, which is something we talked about at the beginning of the season. You thought you were going to be in a lot of them. So the trend is good so far. You hope it doesn't regress too much. But I was pretty pleased with the game management. How did y'all feel about, Joey's overall game management there?
Yeah, I agree. I also thought we texted about this, but whenever on the last drive, whenever their running back got hurt, he had to come out, so they had to sub. That was so smart to sub our guys slowly, and that honestly might have saved the game for us.
Dude, you could see, so I watched it back today, and you could see the coaches on the sideline. They were like yelling at the dude to like fall down, fall down, fall down. Like it'll just be a 10-second runoff. But he he's a young player. He's a freshman. You're trying to go fast. And so you're like, oh, I got to get off the field so we can get a guy in so we can keep going. And it's like that ends up costing them 20, 25 seconds. So you do feel bad for the kid a little bit. He's trying to help and makes, a big mental mistake that ends up probably costing his team the game.
Yeah. Another thing is like, I definitely agree with you that one score games are kind of like lucky in some ways and tend to go 50-50. But whenever you're up 2 scores late in the game, like that seems more that it was lucky that it even got to a one score
like
game.
A one score. Yeah, you feel like Arizona State, they scored with 40 seconds left or whatever it was to make it an 8-point game. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. The one thing I will harp on, I was upset. Sorry, Conrad, I'll let you go here in a sec. I was frustrated that we didn't run it out to the 2-minute warning at the end of the first half. We took a snap with 2:02 left and basically ended up gifting them another 40 seconds for their drive, which they ended up missing a field goal. It didn't cost you anything, but in a lot of single score games, I thought that was something that we didn't do very well. But Conrad, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I haven't been upset necessarily with game management at all from Joey and this staff necessarily. There have been a couple 4th down questionable calls that I think we've all raised our eyebrows at, but as a whole, I thought on Saturday night they did a really good job. That, well, we already talked about the subbing at the end of the game. That was just a complete awareness thing from the coaches, and that's fantastic. I mean, that's what you want to see. I mean, that did do wonders for you at the end of the game. We don't know what would have happened if we wouldn't have done that, but was really impressed overall with how he managed this game, and felt like that really did play to you winning the game. I don't think people realize how hard it is to manage a game, and the fact that they did it well, it really did mean that you won this game as opposed to not managing it well. Because Scott Satterfield, I think we would all agree he made some pretty serious game management mistakes in the 4th quarter. So was really happy with how our coaching staff managed the end of this game.
Yeah, and I think too, when you're looking at how Joey's managed the end, there wasn't anything that we did necessarily where I was like, why are we doing this? Like, I didn't catch myself saying like, why, through the 4th quarter. So I thought that Joey did a fairly good job with that. I was asking more so that about Scott Satterfield, like not taking some timeouts on the 10-second runoff, subbing out. I mean, they gifted us probably 40, 50 seconds on that last drive, and we found a way to win. And I know that Joey and Patrick Mahomes and all those guys talked about that when Pat came and spoke to the team, just find a way. And I mean, whether it's looked pretty or not, we have found a way in 4 of the 5 games at home. And that's ultimately what matters. And I think that Joey has been pretty effective in his game management strategy and play calling with Kitley for the most part. I mean, you're going to get blown up, right? Like with your offensive line. Todd, just like that 2nd down run, it just kills you because now you're kind of forced to either have to pass and still play kind of conservative. But that's not really play calling as much as your dude just got freaking blown up at the line of scrimmage, which happened fairly often. And so there wasn't really anything with the coaching staff in particular that I watched this game and was like, this is not good. And that was a great thing for us too.
If I was a Cincinnati fan, I don't think the last drive would have been as frustrating as the second to last drive. They got the ball with about 8 minutes left, and they kind of just meandered down and scored with I think 3 minutes and 15 seconds left. Like they took 5 minutes off the clock. Didn't really feel like they had a ton of urgency. And, if you score with even just 4 minutes left, that's an extra, 45 seconds that you would have had at the end of the game. I just, that was frustrating to me. I would have been frustrated by that if I was a Cincinnati fan. So thankful that we didn't make any of those tactical errors that may have potentially cost us the game.
Yeah. I also want to touch on I've seen Kitley getting a lot of hate for the 3rd and 12 screen pass. And dude, in that situation, they were going to drop 8. Like, you do not want to be throwing that ball trying to get a first down. Number one, you want them to burn the timeout. And two, that could easily be a pick. I had more of a problem with the second down play call of running, like handing off to Taj, going kind of east and west. Like, I would rather just get upfield as soon as possible. But 3rd and 12, you don't have a lot of options.
Yeah, you got to make sure that they burn a timeout.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get more into the game specifically and kind of go through. We can start with the offense too. But Conrad, great job on the Kool-Aid Factory. I don't know if I stated this, but if you are new to the show, we go through the Kool-Aid Factory each and every week here on the Broadway Shuffle, where Conrad gives you the state of the Texas Tech Kool-Aid, how much hype are we buying into, and on our Thursday show, you can get the flavor of the week. So this week was Bearcat Blow Pop. Phenomenal flavor. It tasted great. We were chugging it all Sunday. Z and I were having it at the Rawls tailgate before the game. Then Z's dad and family, all of us, we were just chugging the Kool-Aid before, and it paid off. We helped. I think it's because of us we ended up winning by 3. So shout out to the Buchanans as well. But so you can tune in every week for the Broadway Shuffle Kool-Aid Factory with Conrad too. So, but anyways, Behren, what about, specifically Behren Morton here in this game? I think we've all wanted to see Behren kind of take over games, is what we talk about. Can Behren be effective? Can Behren, throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns and 4 touchdowns and really control the game? And I honestly thought he did that. The numbers won't look like it because he ended up only 19 of 29 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns, but no interceptions, and there were some drop balls. So overall, what were your thoughts, Clayton, on Behren? And how confident do you feel in him moving forward the rest of the season?
Yeah, I thought Behren played really well. After we went down 14-3, I have stats right here. Next 5 drives, he went 12 of 19, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 47 yards rushing, and we went touchdown, 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 field goal. So we kind of, you already mentioned it, but like waiting for him to take over a game, I kind of felt like he did that. And I honestly feel like, I don't know if there's 5 other QBs in the Big 12 that I would take over him for the rest of the year.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a spicy take.
Does that say more about Behren or the state of Big 12 quarterbacks?
I would say it's definitely, I think the Big 12 has a lot of good QBs, but not a lot of elite QBs. Like, I think probably Shadur and Cam Rising are the only 2 like elite QBs in the conference, but I don't think we have a lot of bad QBs. So I think it definitely says something about Behren that he would be top 5 in the conference.
Yeah. So you've got Alan Bowman at 16, right?
Yeah.
And
Donovan
then
Smith at 15.
Donovan Smith at 15. And then from there, it's just, the middle pack. Yeah. Conrad, what about you? I know you texted during the game, let Behren cook. So is that how you felt? Was Behren cooking last night?
Behren was cooking. We may have to have a Conrad's Kool-Aid Factory Behren Morton flavor edition, and because NIL is such a big deal now. No, Behren, I thought he played really well. 16 or 65% completions, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the most important stat for a quarterback, 0 interceptions. He has 14 touchdowns and 2 interceptions this year. And those 2 were in the same game. The guy is efficient as can be. He is confident. He is throwing the ball away. I think he did that twice last night, maybe 3 times. He looks comfortable back there. He looks like he belongs back there. He understands, like we mentioned in previous episodes, that his offensive line is not good. He is so aware of fading to the left or to the right in the pocket when the pressure's coming up the middle or off one side. He's moving really well. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can definitely do what he needs to with his legs when needed, as you saw last night. Behren Morton is an absolute stud The only quarterback I would take over him in the Big 12 right now is Shedeur Sanders. I would take him over Brennan's beloved Cam Rising, because Cam Rising is such a bum that he can't even get on the field for like 90% of his games. So I'm not going to take Cam Rising over Behren Morton if he can't even play on the field. That's how strongly I feel about Behren Morton, just because he's continued to improve. He hasn't turned the ball over, and he's done exactly what you want him to do. And if he stays healthy, knock on wood, we have a healthy quarterback through 5 games. He's only going to get better. And if he gets better, this team's only going to get better and better and better on the offensive side of the ball, even if you have the shortcomings at O-line that on the offensive line that you do. So I don't know if y'all disagree with that. I know that's a pretty strong take, but I love seeing that guy throw the ball, and he's shown me over and over again that he is improving and he can be that dynamic quarterback that leads your team and that leads you to new heights. And so I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that, but I'm a firm Behren Morton believer after last night.
Yeah, I mean, Behren as a top 2 quarterback in the conference, maybe a little bit strong for me, but I think he's definitely in, probably the lower bound group in that tier 2 group. I think Cam and Shedeur are probably tier 1. But Behren has been much better than I thought he would be. His run game, it is effective. I love the way that we're using it this year. It's not, QB draws. That pull with Taj was a great play. That would have gotten stuffed. That was a great decision by Behren. He needs to do that once a game to keep people honest from crashing on Taj. If you keep one extra guy away from Taj, I think that opens even up more running holes for him, or running lanes. And then I thought, the drops really hurt Behren too. He had that touchdown pass to Coy that should have been caught. He had the deep ball to Caleb Douglas that should have been caught. And then just looking at the advanced stats, people may not want to hear this, but he outplayed, Sorsby. Sorsby has the higher, yards and all of those things, but EPA per drop back, Behren was 0.61 per drop back, which was in the 95th percentile. You basically can't ask for much better than that. Sorsby was still good, 0.38, which is in the 84th percentile, but not even close to as good as Behren was last night. Sorsby was good, but Behren did a lot of really clutch things. He did great on third down. He stepped up in the pocket. He hit guys down the field and in the middle of the field and deep down the field, which is something, especially against Washington State, he could not do. He was throwing everything down low. I was just really impressed with what he did. And then offensively, Taj Brooks was excellent again. You were really, really good running the ball. He had 172 yards on 30-something carries, which was really impressive. One thing I'm hoping to hear from Joey on Monday in his presser, you rolled out a new starting O-line. I don't know if y'all saw that, but you put Porter in at left guard and you slid Caleb out to right tackle. You kept Carter at right guard and then Wilson at center and kept Merriman out at left tackle. So you bumped Ty Buchanan out, and I think he was a healthy scratch because he came in for a couple plays. I'll just be interested to see why they did that and what kind of the reasoning was there. But those were kind of my offensive thoughts. I want to check real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I thought Kitley was good. He was pretty clever in a lot of his stuff. You're going to get some stuff blown up, but his play calls were really nice. I thought you took your deep shots when you had him, and he drew up some nice stuff for Taj and for Behren.
Yeah,
I loved
Conrad. Go ahead.
I'll just say this real quick. I loved Kitley was fantastic. I loved the Wildcat with Conyers. I thought that was so effective, and hopefully you can see more of that.
Yeah, it was interesting last night. There were 3 or 4 plays where Behren threw the ball away or stepped out of the pocket and just made the right play, and I was like, good job. Like, and it's things that we haven't seen our quarterbacks do a lot the last couple of years. And that was almost, I know it sounds boring, but that was one of the most impressive things to me was when he was able to get out of the pocket, throw the ball away, just live to play another down, don't do anything crazy. There was never a ball that he threw, like even the Caleb Douglas one over the middle that Caleb dropped that he should have caught. It was right in the breadbasket. There wasn't a ball that should have really been intercepted. Yes, he does a really good job of protecting the football. We haven't, with how poor the offensive line has been, we haven't seen a lot of strip sacks. Like his awareness in the pocket is much better than your quarterback from last year, who lost this weekend, by the way. And you, just for the people to know. And wow, we're throwing in what was that there? We're throwing in audio sounds now, Conrad.
Well, hey, when you mentioned Tyler Shuck losing a football game all of Red Raider Nation breaks out in joy. So I had to utilize that there.
Oh man. Okay. Great job. I was nodding. I was like, what is happening right now? And I thought I hit something on the computer. But it's good to see. And like you said, Conrad, knock on wood, he stays healthy. But this guy wins. I mean, the games that he has started and finished, I'm not exactly sure the specific record, but I know it's a lot to a little. A lot of wins and a little losses when Behren starts and finishes a football game. Um, and it's just, I think the team rallies around him when he's playing well. And so we'll get into Arizona obviously next week, and it's a totally different story on the road, but great to see Behren play as effective as he has been the last 3 or 4 weeks. So
let me mention one thing to I don't know if we're going to talk about the offense anymore, but the amount of runs that you're getting blown up on in the interior of the offensive line, and I know that Corleone or whatever his name is, number 2, that big guy is an absolute game wrecker. He is so good, but the amount of runs you got blown up on, I understand you have to keep running it up the middle to some degree, but I like in that instance, I like the horizontal screen passes. I like the horizontal run plays, just because I like getting them off their heels, because it feels like every single time we go up tempo, one of two things happen. We run the ball up the middle on that slow read, or we throw a screen pass. Like that's what it feels like every single time we go up tempo. And when you go up tempo and you do that, and you've got a guy like that on the other side of the line, you're going to get stuffed because they pretty much know what's coming. So I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on that, but that's always been a concern for me, what they're doing in the interior of the offensive line, how that unit's kind of been hurt a little bit in terms of their production because they're just getting blown up in some instances. So that is my concerning part of the offense for me after this week, and as well as the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, but I felt bad for Sheridan Wilson. That's going to be the toughest matchup he has all year. The 20-year-old going up against Dante Corleone, and he was excellent. I mean, I don't think there's any other way that you can describe it. He was a game wrecker on the inside. You're not going to play anybody else this year that's that explosive and that dominant on the inside, and especially in an odd front like that where he's going to be lined up directly on the center. So your youngest guy was having to deal with him all night, and I thought that was a little bit tough for him. They did some good things. They loaded the box a lot more than what you'd seen in some other stuff. They were really daring Behren to kind of throw there. They were putting 6-7 guys in the box, and to Kitley's credit, we were able to find ways to run in some of those stacked boxes still. I thought they did a good job. To your point, Conrad, when that middle stuff was getting blown up, like how do we get it outside? How do we get Taj in space? How do we do different things like that? And I thought Kitley was pretty clever there and went away from some of the stuff that wasn't working initially, and got to some secondary reads that were working.
Yeah, one thing I want to touch on too, Clayton, I'm going to come to you. Do you have anything to add on the offensive line specifically first?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to read this to y'all. Josh Kelly, 8 catches, 111 yards. Coy Aiken, 3 catches, 78 yards. Dre McCray was your next highest targeted receiver, 5 catches, 39 yards. And then Caleb Douglas, 1 catch, 4 yards. Jalen Conyers, 1 catch, 3 yards. Are we surprised, Clayton, by the lack of or maybe a better question is like how much Josh Kelly is getting the ball and how little it seems some of these other guys that you brought in are starting to see the ball thrown to them? And specifically with Caleb Douglas and his drops, I mean, is that starting to become a concern for you? Because there's been a couple big games now where he's had some options to catch 2 or 3 big passes and he has dropped the ball.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm super concerned with that. I mean, Caleb Douglas was probably our best receiver in the last game, if I remember correctly. So over the season, I'm not super concerned. I definitely don't think we're going to reduce Josh Kelly's targets anymore, and I don't think we should. He's definitely our best playmaker with the ball in his hands, and our best receiver. Coy has also been way better than I was expecting. I honestly didn't know what to expect from him this season. I feel like he flashed last year in some instances, but I didn't know if he could sustain it as like a full-time starting player in the Big 12, and he's looked really good. So I expect him to still get a lot of the deep shots, and then Kelly to get a lot of the high leverage, like third down plays. And then hopefully you would hope that Douglas can clean up the drops because he has had a problem with that. But I still like the way the receiving corps is shaking up. We also mentioned it, but not to bring up Micah Hudson again, but I really can't believe that Dre McCray is getting so many snaps when Hudson's getting nothing.
It's come out again. Conrad, you obviously agree with that. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not to go on a tangent, but I'm not thrilled that Dre McCray is getting snaps over Micah Hudson. I think Dre's a good player, but if Micah is competent in any way to play football for you, which I would assume he would be, and if he's not, that's a whole different conversation. He should be getting snaps over Dre McCray. I understand Caleb, I understand Josh, I understand Coy, but you would think at least that Micah would be your fourth guy that would rotate in some of those instances. So that was really frustrating. I didn't see him on the field once last night for anything. I get it. He's young. I understand that. That makes sense. But if you're not going to play him at all, you might as well just redshirt him at this point, because that's kind of seems like a waste to just have him standing over there on the sideline thinking he may play and never actually get in the game. So I don't know if y'all agree, but yeah, I find it really interesting that he's still where he is, even with Caleb's drops and as the season has gone on.
I think if the coaches had an otherworldly 5-star talent that would be a massive positive contributor for your team right now, they wouldn't keep him on the sidelines. I think there's probably a good reason he's not playing. I don't think that's anything against his talent. I think it's what we've talked about before. It's like this guy basically got full cleared August 31st. You've got a true freshman who would be his role is Josh Kelly's role. It's not really the deep ball. He's competing against Josh Kelly, and right now Josh Kelly's clearly a better receiver, and he's just not going to take many snaps away from Kelly right now. So it doesn't concern me too much. I think they'll work him in more, but it is disappointing from where we thought he would be at the beginning of the year.
Is it disappointing seeing like Conyers with one catch and 3 yards, or even Douglas just one catch for 4 yards, or is that concerning for you moving forward?
I think we've seen the game plan involve the tight ends. I think just particularly the way that they set up their defense with the 3-3-5, it's not as conducive to tight ends in my mind. I think a lot of the stuff that you're seeing were some of those really quick routes to the side, deep balls, and then running the ball effectively. Your tight ends played well. They blocked well. They did some things well. They just didn't necessarily show up in the box score.
Yeah, that's understandable too. One other thing that I found kind of not worrisome, but Conrad, I'll come to you too in a sec, but we talked about Taj Brooks. Like, hey, the coaching staff would talk about Taj Brooks, saying we want to limit his carries to a certain extent, and he had 27 last week and 32 carries this week, so he's getting a lot of workload, man. Cam Dickey, I don't even think got a rushing attempt yesterday. He had a pass thrown to him and he dropped it, but he didn't have a rushing attempt. So, are we worried about Taj's workload up to this point, Conrad?
Yeah, with Taj, it's hard because he's such an important part of your team, and he makes so many things go. He's the heart of your football team. He's what you rely on. You can tell how much of a difference he makes when he's in there. Obviously, I don't think any of us would want to see him with 32 carries, just because that's a lot. That's a lot of wear, and you're only 5 games in, and you've got a long way to go before you play on January 21st or whatever it is for the national title. So you need to keep him healthy before that happens. But that is concerning. But you got to do what you got to do to win the game, right? So you'd like to see Cam Dickey more, but that's okay. And just to go back to Micah Hudson, Zyler, I agree with you. I understand that he did get cleared. I think it's just I was so excited to see him, and it's that kind of feeling, man. We don't get 5 stars. We've never gotten one. So when you get one, you want to play with your brand new shiny toy, but it still feels like it's sitting under the Christmas tree. It's unwrapped because it's yours now, but it's still sitting there and you can't play with it. That's kind of how I feel about Micah Hudson with what we've seen and thought. So, Clayton, do you have anything to add regarding Taj and his carries and what that workload looks like?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting decision to give him. He literally got 100% of the running back carries for our team yesterday, which I don't honestly agree with. I don't think you lose much if you give like 7 of his carries to Dickey, and you save Taj. I will say that Taj looks way quicker than last year. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like his speed, whenever he can get outside or get past the initial level, looks a lot better than last year. So hopefully we don't lose that by giving him the ball 35 times a game.
Yeah. The coaches were saying they were, giving him a break in the spring because they were going to absolutely run the tread off of his tires in the fall. That was the real reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining because he is it's not really his fault that guys are in the backfield by the time he gets handed the ball on some plays. I'm not, he's still rushed for 170 plus yards. So he's doing everything that we need him to do to help our team win. And he seems to be fine coming off the week off against Washington State. So I just hope that come game 9, 10, 11, Todd is still as effective if he's getting 25 plus carries each week. That does wear on you. You're getting hit a lot when you're doing that. So we'll see. Well, that was great on the offense. I almost don't want to even discuss defense that much.
Yeah, let's just cut the episode there.
Let's just move on to Big 12 power rankings and what we thought of Big 12. But I mean, gosh, it's like these guys, you almost feel bad for them. Like some of these young kids, it's like a deer in the headlights. So you can't really blame them. I mean, they just haven't had the experience to play in meaningful big football games, and they're kind of learning. Clayton, what are your thoughts on the defense overall and how they performed last night? And you can do it as quick as you want to, man. I don't know if we want to hear too much about that 41-point performance they gave up yesterday.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of new thoughts on the defense that we haven't already covered on past episodes. We really struggled to get any pressure on the quarterback. Our secondary gets regularly torched. One thing, dude, our safeties take the worst angles that I've ever seen. I mean, both of the long touchdowns from yesterday probably should have been less than a 20-yard gain if his safety takes a better angle, and both of them end up as 50-plus yard touchdowns. So I don't know why that is, honestly. It would be nice if we could generate some pressure from blitzes or stunts or something other than that, but haven't really been able to so far. But to give them credit, they did come up with the pick six that kind of put the game almost out of reach. Although you tried to give it back up after that.
we thought it was out of reach.
Yeah. But yeah, Conrad, you have any other thoughts?
I mean, it's your defense obviously is not where you want it to be. We know that. Was probably the most frustrating moment of the game for me is when Brendan Sorsby threw the pass, the ball directly to Sanford, hit him right in the chest, and he dropped it. That would have ended the game right there, and I think they scored after that, if I'm correct. And so that was concerning. I do think that, again, they're young. They're going to continue to get better. There are some bright spots. Lux did not play at all, I believe. Am I correct on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he didn't play at all. So that, I mean, we saw what that meant for you when he does play, and that, he shuts down a whole side of the field. Hopefully, looking forward to next weekend, he does play. We're going to need him against that monster receiver that Arizona has. So, but it's discouraging. But again, they're young. But I don't really have anything positive to say. I guess the only thing positive to say about looking at penalties as a whole, you did have 5 penalties for 37 yards, which I thought was great as well. Obviously, that's offense and defense, but wanted to bring that up and make sure that we highlighted that because that's a big deal. 5 penalties for 37 yards. I'll take that every single day of the week if you gave that to me right now for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Z, to go on a positive note, I guess, for your thoughts as well, you did force 2 turnovers, really should have been 3. So they did get some stops. We've talked about getting timely stops. You force a fumble, you have a pick 6. You've now had 2 pick sixes this season. So it's not like it's all bad. I mean, obviously there's a lot of blown plays, but we did have a couple turnovers that led to points, which is always a good thing as well.
Yeah, I think I'm actually a little more positive about the defense. I don't think the box score, I don't know that the performance was great, but looking at the context, you're going to have the youngest defense you'll probably ever field here. And then to start the game, you're going to be knocked out 4 starters. So you lost Lux, your best corner. You're already down your 2 starting edge rushers, which hurts your pass rush. And then you lose your starting safety, Chapman, in the first or second quarter to a hamstring injury. And then you also lose your backup safety, Sanford, to a hand injury. So he puts a cast on and then isn't able to catch the ball because he has a hard cast on his right hand. And so to have all of that and still come out with a win with your team being that young and then that injured, I'll take it. I think they were opportunistic, and that's usually all that we've needed as a Tech team to win games. Can you force field goals? Can you get turnovers? That's usually all that we've asked for. I know they want to be much more than that. I do think you have a good run defense, though. You held them to 0.09 EPA per rush, which was in the 34th percentile. They were losing a lot of yards on their rushes. It was not a good rushing night for them. And that's with a really old offensive line. That's redshirt senior team that loves to run the ball. Now, to credit Cincinnati, they did lose both of their running backs in the game. So they had the freshman who made some mistakes. So I don't want to say that was all your defense, but on Corey's 3 carries, he wasn't actually, blowing you up, and Evan Pryor played for a lot of the game and you were stopping him too. They were 3.9 a carry. I'll take that the rest of the season. And that's a team that loves to run the ball. I thought DB Carroll looked really good. He's short. He's going to struggle with some bigger interior guys, but he definitely was the most disruptive defensive lineman you've had this year. You still have got to find somebody off the edge, though. It's making your secondary and your safeties look so much worse than they probably are because they have to guard for 5 or 6 seconds on dropbacks, and that's going to be hard for good defenses. For what I think is probably a slightly above average defense, is going to be pretty much impossible. So got to find a way to get some more pressure. And when you do, good things happen. They did that delayed blitz with Rodriguez, and you turned it into a pick 6. We said that about Sorsby going in. If you can pressure him, he'll make mistakes. And, you capitalized on one there. I did think Sorsby was pretty good. He looked really solid for me. He looked, I think he's probably an upper echelon Big 12 quarterback for me going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he threw some really good balls. I was impressed by him too, because I didn't know too much. I'd watched a few highlights of him prior to the game, but I didn't see anything that just stood out to me. But I thought he was extremely effective. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the box score doesn't look great. I mean, you give up 426 yards passing, but it doesn't tell the full story. And the defense has given up, I think, 34 points a game so far this season. Not horrible. I think you actually have the most points for in the conference right now, and then you also have the most points against. So it's
electric games,
man. It's that, I mean, back to the good old Texas Tech ways, man. We won a lot of games playing like that, so back in the day. So we'll see if we can continue it. And so
Dude, that's why, sorry to interrupt, but that's why I think it's so funny when I get on Twitter and all of the criticism is towards Kitley. Like,
I know, it's unbelievable.
You would never guess that we put up 44 points yesterday. And we had 3 less possessions than they did too.
Yeah. Why do we think that is? Is it because are people stuck in the ways of like, do they hate the RPO? Do they hate the fact that we're running, like, our quarterback only threw the ball 29 times? Like, what is it?
We don't have smart fans. I love you, but we don't have smart fans. I mean,
I think that's just the nature of college football fandom in general. If any of you follow message board geniuses, the idiots are rampant amongst this great nation, and they inhabit all of the fan bases. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Kitley getting trashed for scoring on 7 of 9 drives is kind of crazy.
Hey, Zach, if you're listening to the podcast, which I know you are, great job on Saturday. Keep it up. We'd love to have you on the show in the off season.
Yeah, we know that Zach's a loyal listener. Obviously, the Kool-Aid is humming for Kitley. We've been buying into the hype here for a couple of weeks on the offense. Think they're doing a lot of good things, and so you can hate on us and call us dumb if we lose and drop the ball on Saturday against Arizona, and we'll go down with them. But we're here to defend that for now. He's making Behren look good. It changes week to week. Like we said, week 1 was the sky falling on Texas Tech football. We all sat here and said, we think so, and here we are, 4-1. So, and with that too, where we were right and where we were wrong this week, this is something we've incorporated so that we keep ourselves accountable. Our listeners can keep us accountable. Clayton, you got a pass this week, man, because you were at a concert doing your thing, head bopping last week to some goth babe, I think is where you were.
How was Casting Crowns?
Yeah.
Yeah, the concert was great. I sent him my prediction by mail. It was Tech 44, Cincinnati 41. I don't know if y'all saw it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I must have missed that one, man.
Yeah.
You obviously didn't overnight it, but where we were right, I picked Tech 42-27, so pretty close on the Texas Tech score. Conrad had Tech 38-17, so Conrad, unfortunately, this week you are our biggest loser.
I will not pick Tech to allow under 20 points the rest of the season going forward. So that was a mistake. I'll own
except
that 100%.
when we play OSU, Oklahoma State.
They're not going to score a point on us.
And I hope not. And then Zyler, you're the winner this week, man. You had Tech 34-31. And so you were just 10 points off on each side, but you predicted a 3-point game, and you were right. And I think some dude even commented on our YouTube short and said, give this guy a raise before ESPN hires him. He obviously knows something. So good job, man. Your raise will be paid in terms of Kool-Aid. So we'll be sending some more Bearcat. Yeah, we'll get that.
That works for me.
Yeah,
It's almost out. We got to do that soon.
The amount of money that's coming in from our YouTube right now, I just don't know if a raise is feasible just yet, but soon enough. So
yeah, product give backs work. Yeah, I think I overestimated both defenses a little bit. That was my bad. Won't happen again.
Yeah, and so we'll see. But I can't wait for our predictions on Thursday for Arizona and Tech. That one, it's like Arizona, I don't know what to expect. I feel like they could put up 60. Their offense hasn't looked great either, so I feel like we could maybe stop them. And I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting, but we'll get to that on Thursday's show. So one thing I also wanted to mention before we get into news and notes from around the Big 12 and the country as well is we talked about this before the season, but we said if you're 4-1 at the end of this stretch that we just had, you're feeling pretty good, and it means you took care of business. So I just want the meter for Tech fans and for us here on the show. Like, we should be proud of this team and where we're at. And we said worst case scenario, you should be 4-1. We all kind of assumed that loss would probably be on the road to Washington State. It was, and even with that, even with the close call against Abilene Christian, you took care of business how you were supposed to. And the season starting now, it's the first time you're 2-0 in the Big 12 since 2013. Joey's, I think, 14-3 at the Jones in the last 17 games. So the direction of this program compared to where we were is rising. And I think we need to appreciate what we're watching and what we're getting, because we have not had this in a long time. Not saying it's going to lead to Arlington, like Conrad might think so, here in a Big 12 title game, but it's definitely better than it has been. It's a lot of fun, and we get to enjoy talking about it more than we would if it was not going as well. So I just want to, let everyone know to be happy and be thankful that we're here 4-1 and 2-0 in conference for the first time in 11 years. So
yeah, you forget. You forget how many seasons you've had where this one felt like it was going to happen, where the season was over before it even started, but where you would go into Big 12 play and just get killed your first two games. And you're 0-2, and it was like, oh God, like, see, where our team's terrible. I think now that you have at least a semi-competent team. I think Joey has been a great floor raiser for this program, which ultimately is what you needed. He's been great at elevating. The floor doesn't fall out. We're not going to have a 3-win season. We're at least going to have a 4-win season. Not that that's what we're looking for, but I've been thankful for that. You've been at least respectable in your 3 seasons with Joey, and that's been awesome.
Yeah, I agree. We're 8-2 in our last 10 games, which is crazy. I feel like every one of those games has been a nail biter, and we somehow won 8 of them.
And, not to be a Debbie Downer, these are back-to-back games where you've had a post-game win expectancy that's been sub 50%. So you do need to improve. There's room for improvement. That's Bill Connolly's second-order win statistic. So you have room for improvement, but if you were at the game or you watched the game, you know that game flow the game never really got out of hand. A lot of things had to go right for Cincinnati to get back into that game. I would, contend with what that actual win probability should be like. You were probably above 80% for a large majority of the second half. But yeah, excited and, hopeful for the rest of the season. I think we know that this team's ceiling is probably limited. This isn't going to be a 10-win team. But be competitive, and let's kind of roll the dice and see where it lands.
Conrad's pulling out the Kool-Aid. And if you're not watching this, you can watch us on YouTube and Spotify. We encourage you to, because you get to see Conrad chug Kool-Aid for probably, I don't know, 10 minutes of the whole show. At least he pulls it out. It's a lot of fun. And now I don't know if we got to give this button. Should we keep giving Conrad button access to sounds? I'm kind of liking it, actually. I don't know it, but it seems like that might make a more appearance in Kool-Aid. So we'll find out. But Conrad, man, I know that you're loving the fact we're 4-1. It feels pretty good though, huh?
Well, let me say again, under your last two head coaches, Cliff and Wells, I don't feel like you had a consistent, even with your backs against the wall, you were ever able really to get it going in the direction you wanted to, even after your back was against the wall. After ACU, we were all like, what are we doing? Who are we? Should we, you're not a serious football program. Somebody on this podcast said that. You feel like you've been put against the wall and you've come out fighting, you've come out swinging, you've worked hard, and you're moving in the right direction. And that's all we want to see. Obviously Big 12 titles, but you're moving in the right direction. And so, sitting here at 4-1, I mean, it could be worse. You could be those Horned Frogs in Fort Worth. You could be those Bears down in Waco. I mean, it's a lot more fun to be sitting where you are right now than to be a Baylor Bear and know that your coach is getting fired for sure at the end of the season. And I'll just say this, my prediction, Dave Aranda will be a consultant at Texas Tech next year. So that'd be great to have him in that role.
Dude,
but
I would love that.
You feel great you just feel good as a program. Sure. Now I'll take the Kool-Aid thing away for a second. You're probably not going to Arlington, right? You're probably not beating you're probably not just going to win out. Obviously, we know that, but you are moving in the right direction as a program to where you're going to be competitive in this new era of the Big 12 for a long time. Like I said earlier, Joey's going to be the coach here for 20 more years, and then he's going to, hand it off to somebody else. So you do feel good as a program, and I think you ought to be positive no matter what happens against Arizona, because you are trending in the direction that we all want to see.
Yeah, for sure. Clayton, any thoughts?
I mean, to add to what Conrad said, I agree. I don't think we're going to Arlington, but one thing I will say is the way it's looking right now, I think both teams playing in that game will probably have 2 losses. So if you can somehow find a way to go 2-2 on the road and then win your home games, which is not unthinkable, like you have a shot, depending on tiebreakers, to be in that game. Yeah. Not saying that we will be, but it would help to win this Saturday. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Conrad, you brought up TCU, so I'll go ahead and read this out. The news and notes from around the country. TCU did beat Kansas, so Clayton's happy, Conrad's not, but TCU did get a Big 12 win. UCF got rolled against Colorado, which was shocking. They were 13.5-point favorites. Colorado beat them, I think it was 48-21. K-State made Alan Bowman look like a JV quarterback again. They beat. Okay. All right. Enough over there. They probably ended OSU's Big 12 title chances. They're now 0-2. Utah fell to Arizona without Cam Rising again. They were just, offense is just pretty stagnant without him there. Then Iowa State shut out Houston again. Houston shut out for the second straight week. Donovan Smith is really struggling out there now. But hey, apparently people think he's still a potential NFL quarterback. So, and then BYU, as we touched on, did beat Baylor, tried to blow it, but found a way to hold on. And there he goes. I think now we might have to take the button away. I
just got too happy with the Baylor loss.
Yeah, and BYU, is now 5-0, and I don't think a lot of people expected that. So, overall thoughts, Clayton, on this weekend slate, and any big surprises for you?
I think the Colorado game is definitely the most surprising. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have been shocked if you told me that they won that game, but to see them absolutely dominate UCF in their own stadium is a little bit surprising to me. I did want to ask y'all, who do y'all think is the favorite to make the title? Do y'all still think it's Utah, even with the loss? Because before this week, it was for sure Utah and UCF, and they both lost.
Yeah, it's I could give you the current Big 12 title odds if you want to hear them.
Yeah,
That'd be
let's
great.
pull those up.
It's Kansas State right now, 23.3%, and then Iowa State, 20.2%. So those are your two favorites. You know, the top two were both knocked off. And then it's Utah at 15%, BYU at 8%, then Arizona, TCU, Colorado, UCF, Tech, West Virginia, Arizona State. Oklahoma State is down to less than 1%. Kansas is down to 0.5%. Baylor's at 0%. Houston's at 0%.
I love that Oklahoma State is down to less than 1%. That is awesome.
Yep, that is tough.
Well,
they basically can't make the playoff.
Yeah,
that's great news, Conrad.
I would have thought that Mike, no disrespect to Alan Bowman necessarily. We've done that enough, so I won't do that here. But I would have thought that Gundy would have gone out and gotten a quarterback that he would have felt comfortable playing if Bowman couldn't. Maybe he has that guy and he just hasn't done it yet, but that's a little bit surprising to me. But while we're on the subject of Big 12, odds and things like that, I would just like to read out the Big 12 conference standings. First, you have BYU at 2-0. Second, you have Colorado at 2-0. And third, you have your Red Raiders at 2-0. So, we're looking good right now. We're looking down on all the other teams, but I did think it was crazy to see what Colorado did to UCF, though. I was not expecting anything like that.
In hindsight, though, I should have been able to see, UCF is so dependent on the run, and Colorado does actually have a pretty good run defense. They have some really hard-hitting linebackers, and they're, aggressive on the ball. If you make KJ Jefferson throw the ball to beat you, you're probably going to have a good chance to win the game, and that's what they did. I don't think that necessarily bodes well for us against Colorado. I think we're an awful matchup for them. Can't rush the passer, love to run the ball. Those are two things that they actually, do well. They love to throw it and they can stop the run. So I'll be a little worried about that game.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise this year has to be BYU at 2-0. At 5-0 and 2-0 in conference, and how they beat Kansas State and how they beat Baylor too, getting up big both times. It's not a lot of people expected this out of this team. We actually thought they'd be pretty bad. They weren't very good last year in conference, and they have faced what looked like to be a fairly tough schedule and are 5-0. And it's I would say that they're probably a second or third team I'd put potentially in there to play in Arlington. I would still have Utah. If Cam Rising does come back and plays, I do think they're a top 10 team in the country. Their defense is still really good, and they still beat you up. They just need a competent quarterback to run a lot of their play action scheme. They love to run so much. They're pretty one-dimensional when they can't have Cam Rising back behind center. Yeah. So if he does come back, I'm not going to lean off of Utah just yet. But if he's out for the rest of the season, or if he's out for the foreseeable future, I don't see them making the conference championship. And I think Kansas State still has a fairly physical team. So I'm going to go Kansas State and BYU, which would be a wild Big 12 championship game. But those right now, just as it stands after week 5, that's where I'm going to put my chips in for the Mormons, man. We love them. Gotta love them. So
their upcoming schedule, they get a bye, and then they play Arizona at home. They play Oklahoma State at home. Then they go to UCF, to Utah, and then they finish the season home against Kansas, then at Arizona State, and home against Houston. If they can get to those back 3 games, they're going to have a real shot to make it. But they do have some tough, going to Orlando and then going to Salt Lake City to play Utah, and you still have to play Oklahoma State and Arizona. But these next 4 games are going to be really challenging for them.
Yeah. And I'm excited for the Colorado game, Z. I know it's just going to be a lot of fun. I think after seeing, I hope it's at night. I hope it's a little chilly night in Lubbock. I mean, that would be awesome.
That'd be great.
And we're all 4 going to be there. And so it's going to be something really exciting to see. Well, awesome, guys. Iowa State, real quick. I mean, any stock on them? Y'all buying into the Cyclone hype at all here? I mean, they've been pretty dominant on defense. Offense doesn't look great, but they're taking care of business so far. Are we buying any Iowa State Kool-Aid?
I definitely think they have a good shot at making the championship game. Their offense is definitely worse than I thought it was going to be. Excuse me, but I mean, they haven't allowed a touchdown or even a score in the last 2 games. So I think their defense will keep them in every game they're in for sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
good.
they've had a good defense for a long time, so they're good, and I think they're only gonna, if they could just find some offense, they would. Even if they had Alan Bowman at quarterback, they may be a little bit better than they are. So, yeah, they're a good team, and I would not be shocked in the slightest to see them win the Big 12 this year, or at least play in the game.
Yeah. Z, you just said, yeah, they're good.
Yeah, I think they're good. They have offensive line problems. I think they actually have a worse line than you may have potentially. It was bad last year, and they didn't really do anything to fix it. So you'll notice that if you watch them enough. I think that may hurt them a little bit, but they were able to be pretty good last year with that same O-line. I think they're going to be in some pretty meaningful November games with a chance to make it to the title game.
Yeah, well, they get us at the end of October, right before November, so maybe that'll be a meaningful game
November
for both teams.
2nd.
November 2nd. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least it's not late in November.
Oh, that's true. It'll still be cold, most likely. It'll still be really cold.
The last time we were there, we won, though.
That's true.
We won't even mention who our quarterback was.
That was an excruciating game to watch.
It was
shocking that you won it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a game that you typically would see Tech win. 14-10, field position, punt, big third down stops and just score and hold on.
The Baylor Cup touchdown, like the one he had. It was so interesting.
The one he had.
The one moment. Yeah. The one moment Baylor Cup had here at Tech. Well, awesome, guys. Well, looking ahead to next week, get ready. Get those coffee cups ready for 4 or 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon, because it is a 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time kickoff at Arizona. Big game. Miserable. We'll get into it. Yeah, big. It's going to be a long night, probably ending closer to 2 a.m. Here in Texas. But big opportunity. I mean, this is another chance to get on the road. We'll talk about it more on Thursday, but chance to finally maybe show you can win on the road and turn the tide when it comes to some of these games, but not in your favor with how late it's starting. So looking ahead to that, we'll be here on Thursday to touch over that game and hopefully see the Red Raiders go to 3-0 in the conference. And Z, with that, man, Tech Trivia. We do Tech Trivia at the end of every show. I say it each and every week, but we hope you stick with us here for the full hour. If you don't, tell your friends to come learn something and fast forward about usually around minute 58, 59. We'd love for them to check out the whole episode, but if not, at least you get Z's trivia at the end. So Z, what question do you have for us tonight?
Yeah, you talked about this is the first 2-0 start we've had since 2013. That was obviously Cliff's famous 7-0 start to the season, which the season ended 7-5. Huge bummer. But for those of you who do remember that season, I don't know that any of us were at Tech at that time. Do you remember the first 2 conference opponents that we beat in 2013?
The first one was
one
TCU.
For sure.
That is correct.
We wore those ugly
I don't
gray.
think anybody would have that.
That was Baker's first Big 12 game. Yeah. I remember that. I remember where I was watching that game.
The next game was at West Virginia, and Davis Webb was your starting quarterback. That game. And I was watching that at a Fuddruckers, of all places.
That's not going to beat. Who was saying they watched one at a Dick's Sporting Goods the other day? Was that Conrad?
That was me.
Clayton.
No, that was Clayton.
I watched the Tech Gonzaga basketball game in 2004.
Oh, okay. Very nice. No, it was not West Virginia. It was Kansas. So you actually played TCU third game of the year, and then you had a non-con game against Texas State, and then you went to Lawrence and you won 54-16. Then you went Iowa State, West Virginia, and then lost to OU, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Baylor.
Wait, but you beat West Virginia.
Yeah, you did. You beat West Virginia. That was your 7th win.
Wait, we didn't. Okay, wait. Oh, you're saying 2-0. Okay. I'm such an idiot. I was thinking, I thought we were like 5-0. Then that was our second Big 12 game.
No. But that's your Tech trivia for the week. I was going to say, when was the last time we started 2-0 in conference? And then you nailed that one right at the beginning of the episode, so I had to pivot.
I'm sorry. Well, and I was so wrong. That's embarrassing. But I know for a fact I was watching the West Virginia game at a Fuddruckers. So it just wasn't the second Big 12 game of the year. So I was wrong.
Yep. Well, thanks again, Brennan. Appreciate you hosting everybody. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. Great episode, guys. And again, you can like and subscribe on our YouTube channel at the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast. You can follow our social media accounts at the Broadway Shuffle or on X at the Broadway Shuff. Conrad's been killing our Instagram game, man. He's poking fun at a lot of universities. It'll probably come back to bite us at some point this year. But if you lose and you're a Big 12 team, you are going to get made fun of on our Instagram. So if the loss wasn't enough, know that the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast, is coming for your head as well. So Conrad, great job on that too, man.
Yeah, and let me just say this too. We've got a couple student athletes who are fans of the show. If you'd like to come on, I'm talking to you, CJ Baskerville, Brendan Jordan. You guys are looking at our content, so we'd love to have you on at any point for 5-10 minutes. Love to hear your thoughts. We love you guys. We're proud of you. Keep doing us proud. So we'd love to have you on the show at some point.
Oh, I totally forgot to mention this, but guys, we've made it officially because I was at Chimmy's on Saturday before the game, and a wonderful young woman came up to me, and she's married to one of our staff members on the football team, and she tapped me on the shoulder. I'd met her probably 7 or 8 years ago when I was in school, but I don't know her well at all. And she said, "Hey, I love the Broadway Shuffle." And I was like, you just completed my life now. Like you just told me that you love the Broadway Shuffle as I'm ordering a DP shootout. So it was awesome. We officially have made it. We can, this is all gravy from this point forward. So Great job. But we're having a lot of fun, and thank you all for everyone that does tune in every week. And shout out to Sarah as well and the Juvenek family. So looking forward to many more episodes, and we will be here on Thursday to preview Arizona. So everyone have a great week, and Recom Tech.
Thanks, Brennan.
Recom.
Recom.